Alvin wants a new laptop. His parents are poor, though. His mom recently lost her job. His dad recently quit his job. Alvin knows that he can't ask his parents for a laptop. He decides to ask his rich Uncle Todd. He drives over to Todd's house. Todd's house is beautiful. It has 3 stories. There is a chandelier on the ceiling. There are expensive paintings all over the place. There are 5 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms. Alvin wishes he could live there. Todd offers him something to eat. Alvin says, "No thanks, I already ate." Todd asks him why he is coming. Alvin does not know what to say. He does not want to come off as rude. "My laptop is really old, and I need a laptop for school. I would ask my parents, but they don't have jobs anymore," Alvin says. "I understand," Todd says. Todd takes out $800 from his wallet and gives it to Alvin. Alvin jumps up and down. He has never felt so happy in his entire life. His mom asks Alvin why he is so happy. Alvin does not say anything. He doesn't want to make his mom feel bad. It's hard to get into college these days. It used to be a lot easier. Now, it's not even good enough to get good grades. You need to have good grades in advanced classes. You need to do some extracurriculars. Extracurriculars are activities you do outside of class, such as playing basketball, playing the violin, singing, and more. You need to have a high score on the SAT or ACT. The SAT and ACT are used to test what you know. They both have questions on various subjects. You need to have some leadership positions. It is not just enough to be a member of a club. You need to be the president or the vice president. You also need letters of recommendation, letters in which your teachers, coaches, or bosses write about your abilities and personality. It also helps if you won some awards. It shows that you can achieve something. You also have to write good essays that show who you are as a person. Colleges want people who have interesting personalities and stories. Students with good grades but boring essays will not get into the college of their dreams. Students should not be sad if they don't get into the college of their dreams. They need to know that getting into college is tougher as years go by. Marissa was born with a physical imperfection. She has a unibrow. A unibrow is one long brow. Most people have 2 eyebrows. People make fun of her for having a unibrow. A lot of people don't want to be friends with her. She does have 2 good friends, though. Heather and Joe are Marissa's best friends. They accept Marissa for who she is. Heather was approached by the Popular Kids. The leader of the Popular Kids was Amy. Amy offered Heather a spot in her group if she left Marissa. Heather thought about it. Although she loved Marissa, she always dreamed of being popular. She told Amy that she had to think about the offer. Heather told Joe what happened. Joe was mad that Heather had to even think about it. "You have been friends with Marissa forever," Joe said. Heather thought about it. She thought about all the times she and Marissa did homework together, ate together, and laughed together. It wasn't worth it to give all that up for popularity. She called Amy. I'm never leaving Marissa. She's beautiful on the inside. After talking to Amy, Heather asked Marissa and Joe to hang out. Abby lost her mom yesterday. Her mom got into a car accident. A drunk driver hit her mom's car. The drunk driver is now in jail. Abby visited the jail to make him feel bad. You know what you did, right? Abby asked. The drunk driver nodded and said, I'm sorry. He started crying. Sorry is not going to bring my mom back. Your carelessness took away my mom. The drunk driver continued to cry. I drank because I was feeling lonely. Abby was mad and left the jail. She didn't want to see his face ever again. She wanted him to go to jail for life. Abby could barely wake up. She requested to take a week off her work. She loved her job, but she could not stop thinking about her mom. Abby's husband told her to do something instead of watching TV all day. Abby agreed with him. It was time for her to start doing something productive. She wanted to do something that would make her mom proud. Abby created a program to prevent drunk driving. She wanted to give drunk people free rides. Abby visited colleges, clubs, and bars all across the country to encourage people not to drive when drinking. Kelly has been cheering since she was in elementary school. She is now in her last year of college, cheering for her school's sports teams. She plans to be a professional cheerleader for the Lakers team. That was her dream. Her parents wanted her to do something more normal, like becoming a nurse or working at a law firm. Kelly ignored her parents. Kelly and her teammates were cheering at their last basketball game. When Kelly stood on top of her teammate's shoulder, she fell down. Everyone was silent. Her teammates checked up on her and asked if she was okay. Kelly had to be taken to the hospital. Her leg was permanently injured. Can I ever be a professional cheerleader? She asked. I'm afraid you cannot, the doctor said. Kelly felt that life was unfair. Kelly was scared for her future. All of her friends already knew what they wanted to do after college. Kelly had to change her plans. She already canceled her audition with the Lakers cheerleaders. Kelly thought about what she wanted to do for a career. She still wanted to do something related to cheer. After some thinking, Kelly wanted to be a coach for high school cheerleaders. Kimberly seems like a normal teenage girl. She goes to high school. She has homework. She has problems with the popular girls. She argues with her parents. However, Kimberly has a secret power. She has super strength. She can lift up cars from the ground. She uses her strength to fight crime in her city. She has even been on the news. Kimberly hides this secret from everyone except her younger brother and her parents. She doesn't want people to treat her differently. She feels that people might give her special treatment because she is a hero. She wants people to see her for who she truly is. To hide her identity, she wears a mask and green-colored contacts. Her superhero outfit includes a cape and a stretchy purple suit. Sometimes Kimberly does want to tell people she is a superhero, like when she was bullied by the popular girls. She came close to telling them one time after they destroyed her science project. Kimberly also has a sidekick who is her best friend. His superhero name is Autobot, and his real name is Oliver. His power is his super speed. Oliver goes to the same school as Kimberly, but he does not keep his identity a secret. Anna has a lucky jacket. Whenever she wears it, good things happen to her. She wore it on her final exam one time, and she got the highest grade in the class. The jacket is green with yellow stripes. It's really smelly because Anna never washes it. She is scared that washing the jacket will wash away the luck. She keeps the jacket in a closet all by itself. No other clothes are in the closet. Anna had an important interview for a job. She was very nervous about it. She wanted to wear the jacket, but the jacket was not appropriate for the interview. She needed to wear nice clothes. She decided to wear the jacket under a plain gray sweater. Perfect plan, she thought. When Anna entered the interview room, she started to sweat. She wondered why it was so hot. She realized that the heater was on. She sat down across from the interviewer. "Anna, you're sweating. You should take your sweater off." Anna laughed nervously. "I'm fine," she said. By the end of the interview, there was a sweat stain on Anna's sweater. She left the interview feeling unsure. A week later, Anna got a phone call from the boss. The boss offered her the job. The lucky jacket worked. 10 years ago, most adults had regular cell phones. Now, people have smartphones. With smartphones, you can not only call people, but you can also go online, download new games, calculate a math problem, organize your schedule, and more. Smartphones are really helpful. Even kids have cell phones now. People use their phones a lot these days, especially when they are waiting. People do not like to be bored, so they go on their phones. A lot of news reports are saying that people are looking at their phones way too much. People look at their phones when they are with others, and that is bad. Being addicted to something is never good. When you go into a restaurant and look at other customers, most of them have phones in their hands. They would rather text, play a game, or go online than talk to the people around them. Some restaurants have even offered a free meal or a discount if customers are willing not to use their phones for an entire hour. People also use their phones before they sleep. This is bad for them because it makes it harder for them to go to sleep. The light from the phone tricks our bodies into thinking we need to be awake. The terrorist attacks have scared a lot of people from studying abroad. Many students go to big cities to take pictures, shop, and explore. Terrorists attack these big cities, though, because they know that there will be a lot of people. The truth is, we should not stop people from studying abroad. These terrorist attacks can happen any time. We can't live in fear. We must do the things we love. People are also scared to travel in general because of plane accidents. Terrorists often bring explosives on planes. Some people are also scared of dying on a plane. All the passengers in Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 are missing. We still don't know what happened to them. Not too long after, all the passengers in Malaysia Airlines Flight 17 died. It was a very tragic event. It is scary that our lives can end so quickly and suddenly. We need to live life to the fullest. We need to love the people around us and be thankful for every day that we live. There are always news stories about people dying before they should. It's not the best thing to hear about, but it makes us more aware of our own lives. Brenda has to make an important decision. She got accepted to an internship in France. She also got a job offer at a hospital. She can only do one, though. She made a list of pros and cons. Pros are the good things, while cons are the bad things. The internship in France was good because Brenda always wanted to go to France. Her plane tickets and living accommodation would be paid for. The bad thing about the internship was that it had nothing to do with her life goals. The internship required her to teach French children English. Brenda was okay with children, but she didn't love them. One pro of the job offer at the hospital was that it was good for her end goal. Brenda's end goal was to be a doctor, and the job will teach her a lot about medical school. One con of the job offer was the location. The hospital is in a dangerous place where people have to be careful of being robbed and getting hurt. After a lot of thinking and looking at her list, Brenda decided to work in the hospital. She knew that working there would be good for her future. A lot of kids are smart. The thing that stops them from getting an A is procrastination. Procrastination is putting things off to a later time. An example of procrastination would be starting a project one day before it is due. Procrastinating is bad because it makes a person stressed out. It is also bad because the end product is usually not very good. Since studying is not very fun, students put video games, hanging out with friends, and eating out before studying. They end up studying the night before the test and do not get much sleep. This is bad because 8 hours of sleep or more is needed to do well. Students who procrastinate end up doing badly on tests. Teachers always encourage students to start early and do a little bit of studying every day. Procrastination does not just happen in school. It happens everywhere. People put off going to the doctor, applying for jobs, and more. Some people say that procrastination is just human nature. However, some people say that they do well when they procrastinate. They say that stress makes them work faster. Chris has been going to church every Sunday since he was 4 years old. His parents were very religious and wanted Chris to follow in their footsteps. His dad was a pastor, and his mom was a choir leader. Chris always felt like he was in the middle. He didn't particularly love or hate Christianity. Chris learned about other religions in his history class. He learned about Buddhism, Islam, Hinduism, and more. After learning about other religions, Chris wanted to convert to Buddhism. He felt like he could relate to it better. One Sunday, he told his parents he was not going to church. They were shocked and angry. They told him that if he did not go to church, they would take away all electronics from him. Chris was okay with that. He gave his parents his cell phone, video game console, and laptop. When his parents came back from church, they wanted to have a long conversation with Chris. Chris told them why he didn't want to go to church anymore. He explained what Buddhism was and why he wanted to convert. His parents tried to convince him that Christianity was better. It was useless. Chris made his decision. Dean was known as the tough guy at school. He always wore tight shirts that showed off his muscles. He always pushed the skinny kids at school. He always treated the teachers like they didn't matter. He never did his homework. He got in a lot of fights. People were afraid of him, and Dean loved it. Dean's world turned upside down when his brother passed away. He still went to class. His teacher was talking about Shakespeare, whom Dean's brother admired. Hearing about Shakespeare reminded Dean of his own brother. His eyes started to water. He didn't want anyone to see him cry. He got up from his desk. "Dean, you can't get up while I am teaching," Mr. Chen said. Everyone stared at Dean. Everyone could see the tears in his eyes. They laughed at him. Dean ran out of the classroom. Mr. Chen followed him and sat down with him. "Dean, it's okay to cry. Something tragic happened. Go ahead and cry." Dean put his head on Mr. Chen's shoulder and cried out loud. It was the first time he cried in front of someone. It was the first time he didn't act tough. Jared has a green water bottle that he brings to school every day. He loves it because it keeps his water cold. It also has a cool robot on it. One day, he loses it. Jared asks his friend Richard if he has seen it. "Yeah, I saw Albert holding it," Richard says. Jared walks over to Albert's locker. "Hey, you have my water bottle, right?" Jared asks. "I did, but I let Denise borrow it," Albert says. Jared goes up to Denise. "Hey, do you have my water bottle?" Denise shakes her head and says, "I thought it was cool looking, so I showed Amanda. She has it now." Jared goes to Amanda. "Amanda, tell me you have my water bottle." Amanda shakes her head. "I thought it was Lucas's, so I gave it to him." Jared screams in frustration. Jared goes to Lucas. Do you have my water bottle? Jared asks. I gave it to Richard to give to you, Lucas says. That was weird, since Richard was the first person he asked about the water bottle. Jared went back to Richard. Lucas said you had my water bottle, Jared said. I told you I saw Albert hold it. Lucas probably meant Richard Lopez, not me, Richard said. I'm just going to buy a new water bottle, Jared said. He bought a blue one this time. Daniel was addicted to coffee. He drank 2 cups in the morning and 3 in the afternoon. He can't think or do anything without coffee. His mom wanted him to stop drinking coffee. She decided to throw out all the coffee and give him milk. Daniel was so mad. Mom, I can't go to school without coffee, Daniel said. This is for your own good, his mom said. Daniel went to school. He was cranky and tired without coffee. He didn't want to talk to his friends or pay attention in class. His teachers kept waking him. They told him to go to the nurse's office. Daniel went to the nurse and asked for coffee. She laughed at him. She said that he needed to drink less coffee, but not stop completely. She told him to drink 4 cups a day, then 3, and eventually he won't need coffee. Daniel told his mom what the nurse said. But that means I have to buy coffee again. Daniel laughed at his mom. Daniel and his mom went to the market to buy some good coffee. Daniel did what the nurse told him to do. It was much easier to drink less coffee than none at all. Claire was applying to private schools. Most private schools required letters of recommendation. Claire did not know who to ask. She felt like her teachers did not know her that well. Claire asked her teachers anyways. Some of them said yes, and some of them said no. 1 week later, Miss Hershey gave Claire a letter of recommendation in an envelope. Claire wasn't supposed to open it, but she really wanted to know what Miss Hershey wrote. Claire carefully tore it open and read the letter. She was disappointed. Miss Hershey didn't write anything interesting about Claire. Miss Hershey just wrote that Claire was a smart, nice girl. Claire couldn't get into her top schools with that letter. Claire asked her swim coach to write her a letter of recommendation. Her swim coach knew her well. The problem was that the swim coach wasn't the best writer. He did not go to college. Claire asked him to write a letter anyways. Of course I'll write you a letter. I'll even send it to you, he said. 1 week later, Claire got an email from her swim coach. She was nervous to read what he wrote. Claire was impressed with the letter. Her swim coach was really funny, yet intelligent in the letter. Elliot was a huge fan of The Cooker. The Cooker was a rapper who was known for his deep voice and super fast rapping. The Cooker's real name was Theodore Cook. Elliot had tickets to his sold-out concert in San Francisco. It was the first time he would see him in person. He also had backstage tickets so he could talk to him. Elliot drove to San Francisco with some friends to see the Cooker. They had pretty good seats. They could see his sweat. The Cooker was great live. His voice sounded the same as it did on the radio. Some singers can't sing live. The Cooker wasn't one of them. Elliot waved his hands up in the air. He closed his eyes and listened to the music. After the concert, Elliot and his friends went backstage. Elliot was so excited that he screamed when he saw the Cooker. The Cooker closed his ears. Elliot ran up to him. "I am your biggest fan. Can I have an autograph and a picture?" Elliot asked. The Cooker rolled his eyes. "Sure, I guess." Elliot noticed that the Cooker was annoyed. "You know what? Forget it. I don't want a jerk's autograph," Elliot said. He realized that some celebrities were just mean. Jen is poor. Her dad left when she was 7 years old. Her mom didn't go to college, so she can't get any good jobs. Jen wishes she could get a job, but she is only 13 years old. Jen also wants to be part of the cool group. The cool group buys expensive clothes, shoes, makeup, and jewelry. Jen always wears really simple things like a t-shirt. One of the girls in the cool group is Jen's cousin. Her name is Dana. Dana convinced the cool group to invite Jen on a shopping trip. Jen is excited. She wants to convince them that she is cool enough to be part of the group. When Jen sees them, she feels bad about herself. They are all dressing so much nicer than her. Jen tries to ignore this. She and the cool group go inside Rural Insiders, the most popular store for teenagers. Everything is so expensive, though. All of the girls in the group except Jen stand in line to buy something. "Are you going to buy anything, Jen?" asks one of the girls. "Yeah," Jen says. She grabs a dress. It is $80. She buys the dress, but she plans to return it. Diane and Bobby are dating. Diane's dad does not know that they are dating. He doesn't want Diane to date until she is in college. It's hard for Diane to hide her relationship. Every time she wants to go out with him, she has to tell her dad she is going out with friends. Every time Bobby gives her presents, Diane has to hide them. Her dad is getting suspicious. Bobby is upset that Diane is hiding their relationship from her dad. Bobby feels like Diane is embarrassed to be with him. Bobby wants to meet Diane's dad. He decides to take matters into his own hands. After school, he goes to Diane's house. Diane is still at school because she has violin practice. Bobby knocks on the door slowly. His hands are shaking. Diane's dad opens the door. "How can I help you?" Bobby doesn't say anything for a minute. "Are you going to talk or what?" Diane's dad angrily asks. "Sir, I am dating your daughter," Bobby says. Diane's dad frowns. "Break up with her immediately. She's too young to be dating." Bobby is sad. He tells Diane that they have to keep lying about their relationship to her dad. I know, Diane says. Annie and Diana are identical twins. It is hard to tell them apart. Sometimes their best friends even get confused on who is who. One key difference between the two was their feet. Annie's foot has a mole on it, and Diana's does not. Annie and Diana sometimes disguise themselves as each other. Annie pretends to be Diana when Diana doesn't want to take math tests. Diana pretends to be Annie when Annie has to do the mile run in physical education class. They have been doing this for years. Annie and Diana's enemy, Scarlett, finds out what they have been doing. She tells their math and physical education teachers that they have been cheating all along. Mr. Thompson, the math teacher, gives them both an F. Ms. Nguyen, the physical education teacher, gives them both an F too. Annie and Diana are sad. Annie tries to explain that she gets out of breath easily when she runs. Diana tries to explain that math gives her anxiety. Mr. Thompson and Ms. Nguyen don't care. Annie and Diana no longer pretend to be each other anymore. After they got F's, their parents forced them to move schools. The two schools were not that far apart, so they still got to see each other. Evan was in his last year of middle school. He was 4 feet and 11 inches. He weighed 140 pounds. He was bald. He had no friends. He had a 0.00 GPA. His life was going nowhere. He was struggling with so much because his parents recently passed away. He wanted to transform himself, though, so he could have a fresh start in high school. Evan went to a therapist who told him that he had to make small changes first. The therapist told him that he had to start with the easier things. Evan bought hair growth treatment to fix his baldness problems. He started talking to people more to make friends. He realized that he just had to express himself. He started to study more instead of crying about his parents. He started to eat healthier to lose weight. When Evan entered high school on the very first day, he was a totally different person. His classmates could not recognize him. Evan was now 5'9", muscular, smart, and popular. He also had a head full of hair. Everyone wanted to be friends with him. Most important of all, Evan was finally happy. Emma's dream was to be a boxer. All her life, she was told that she couldn't be a boxer because she was a girl. She was told that she should just get a regular job. Her parents told her that she would be killed one day if she kept boxing. It was hard to hear "you can't" all the time. Emma was still determined to prove everyone wrong. Emma's life was hard. Girls didn't like her because they thought she was too manly. Guys didn't like her because they thought she wasn't as good at boxing as they were. Because of all this, Emma didn't have any friends at school. She always sat alone in the cafeteria, and it was hard for her to find partners for group projects. However, Emma did have friends from her boxing class. They were all female boxers. They understood what Emma was going through because they were in the same position. All they had was each other. They were a family. Because of this, Emma was always excited for boxing class. One day, she was going to be a famous boxer. Only then would everyone regret how they treated her. Frances did not get along with her mom because they had different personalities and goals. Frances's mom was a CEO of a cell phone company. She was incredibly smart, having gone to Harvard University. Her mom cared a lot about money, success, and appearances. Frances was the opposite. Frances didn't go to college. She started an art business, selling her original art pieces. As long as she could feed herself and live somewhere, it was okay. She also did not mind not being famous. Frances didn't care about her appearance either. Unlike most girls, she has her hair up to her ears. She never shaved and only owned 10 pieces of clothing. Frances's mom was upset that her daughter chose this lifestyle. Whenever Frances's mom visited her daughter, they would have a fight. Frances's mom would say some rude comments about Frances's lifestyle, and Frances would tell her mom that she was greedy and shallow. Frances wanted her mom to support what she was doing. Frances was going to get married. She wanted to invite her mom to her wedding, but she knew that she wouldn't approve of her fiancé because he was exactly like Frances. However, at the end of the day, Frances loved her mom, so she gave her the wedding invitation. Frances and Ryan were getting married. They dated for 5 years before Ryan proposed. They were both artists who enjoyed peace and quiet. They wanted a simple wedding with their closest friends and family. They decided to have their wedding in the backyard of Ryan's house. Frances did not want to spend too much money on a dress, so she made her own. Ryan felt the same way and borrowed his dad's suit. Although their wedding wasn't perfect, Frances and Ryan loved each other. The minister asked Frances if she would take Ryan as her husband. Frances said, "I do." The minister then asked Ryan if he would take Frances as his wife. Before he could say yes, someone screamed no. Ryan and Frances looked to the audience. It was Ryan's ex-girlfriend, Karen. Ryan demanded her to be taken out. Ryan's brothers carried Karen out, but Karen bit their arms. She ran up to Frances and ripped her dress. Frances pushed Karen. Ryan told Karen that she needed to leave. Karen wouldn't leave until Ryan called the police. Other than Karen interrupting, the wedding was perfect. Ryan and Frances knew they were going to be together forever. Jill and Dan have been married for 10 years. Jill loves Dan, but she hates his snoring. It is so loud and disgusting. Oftentimes, his snoring wakes her up, and she can't go back to sleep. One night, Dan's snoring was so loud, Jill decided to sleep on the couch. She slept well on the couch. The next morning, Jill's son Timmy saw her sleeping on the couch. He thought that she had a fight with his dad. "Mommy, are you and Dad getting a divorce?" Timmy asked. Jill laughed and hugged Timmy. "No, Timmy, your dad just snores a lot." Timmy asked if she snored. Jill wasn't sure. Later, Jill asked Dan if she snored. "Yeah, it sounds like a cat meowing," Dad said. "Is that a bad thing?" Jill asked. "Well, it's kind of annoying, but I deal with it," Dan said. Jill was embarrassed that she snored. She went to the doctor to see if she could do anything about it. The doctor gave her a few tips, but said that there was no medicine or cure for snoring. Jill went back home disappointed. "All this time I thought you were the annoying snorer, but I guess I am too," Jill said. "Hey, that's what makes us perfect together," Dan said. Lisa needed a job to pay for a car. She needed a car so she could get to school and other places more easily. Lisa saw an ad looking for a school mascot. It was paying $12 an hour, which was a lot for a high school student. She went to the tryouts. The interviewer asked Lisa why she wanted the job and why she thought she would be a good fit. Lisa said that she was very proud of being a tiger and would love to get other students excited about the school's sports teams. Lisa found out that she got the job. Her first day of work would be at the football game tonight. When she got to the football field, she put on her costume and her tiger head. It was smelly and hot inside. She kept thinking about how she needed a car. Then she overheard someone say that it would suck to wear the tiger costume. Lisa felt bad about the job. Lisa's high school football team won. The crowd got up from their seats and cheered. A lot of people wanted to take a picture with the tiger. Lisa spent an hour just taking pictures. After the day was over, Lisa thought about how much money she made. It was the only thing keeping her going. Joy, Samantha, and Maggie were walking around town. The weather was nice. Everyone seemed happy. The girls had each other. Just when everything seemed perfect, the girls heard a scream. "That man just took my purse," an old lady shouted. Joy ran after the man without thinking. She was a professional track runner, so she was fast. She caught up to him easily. "Hey! Give that bag back," Joy demanded. The man tried to run away, but Joy snatched the bag away from him before he could. A police officer saw the whole thing happening. "I can take it from here," he told Joy. Joy thanked him. "Next time, don't run after criminals. You might get hurt," he said. Joy gave the bag back to the old lady. The old lady was so happy and called Joy a hero. She took out her wallet and gave Joy $50. Samantha and Maggie were impressed with Joy. "You did a great thing, Joy," Samantha said. Joy blushed. She didn't feel like a hero. The next day, the city newspaper wanted to do a story and interview with Joy. Joy decided to do it because a little part of her wanted to be famous. They say that good things happen to good people and bad things happen to bad people. this doesn't always feel true. People who have done great things die before they should. It makes life seem unfair, and it is sometimes. People who do bad things get away with it sometimes. Eventually, people's deeds catch up to them. Sean was a good person. He volunteered every week at the animal shelter. He was nice to everyone, even strangers. He took care of his grandparents. Good things should happen to him, right? Unfortunately, Sean just found out that he got laid off at work. This is unfair. However, losing a job when he needed it badly made him very motivated to look for a new job that paid well. Eventually, he found a great job as a teacher in China. Lizzie was a bad person. She stole people's credit card information, yelled at waiters, and used all her friends. Bad things should happen to her, right? Well, Lizzie happened to win $200,000 from a lottery. This is unfair. Justice was served eventually. She was sued for credit card fraud and had to use the money she won to hire a lawyer. While most teenagers had acne, a condition where one gets a lot of pimples, Melinda had great skin. Her skin was perfectly smooth, with no flaws whatsoever. She thinks she got her smooth skin from her parents. She also might have smooth skin because she drinks a lot of water. Having acne is tough because teenagers care a lot about their appearance and what other people think of them. Having acne can cause people to feel bad about themselves, shy away from others, and not go out. Melinda doesn't have this problem, but her sister, Ivana, does. Ivana didn't understand why she had acne because no one in her family had it. Ivana ate fairly healthy too. She felt like she was just unlucky. Because of her acne, Ivana felt insecure about herself. It was hard for her to be confident. She always tried to avoid attention. She barely talked to anyone. Ivana decided to try Proactiv because she kept seeing it on TV. It ended up improving her skin. It was less red and bumpy. Meanwhile, Melinda got her very first pimple, and it was on the day of her big speech in class. It was horrible timing. That's the thing about pimples, though. They just appear out of nowhere. Ed Kane was a teacher at Middlebury High School. He taught math. He was known as the Mystery Man. No one knows anything about him or his life. Ed wants to keep it that way. He didn't want to be a teacher. He wanted to be an astronaut, but things didn't work out that way. He came to Middlebury to teach, not to get to know the students. Even though he wasn't the happiest or friendliest teacher, Ed was always willing to help out his students if they needed help. But if they asked about his personal life, he would turn them away. One of the troublemakers in the class, Matt, asked Ed what his plans for the weekend were. "I don't know," Ed said. "Mr. Kane, tell us something about yourself," Matt asked. "That's enough, Matt," Ed said. It wasn't that Ed was embarrassed by his lifestyle, but rather, Ed just thought that students should focus on math. If he got too friendly with them, they might think of him as an easy teacher. Ed was married with 2 kids and 1 guinea pig. Ed's hobbies included golfing and swimming. Ed was a very intelligent man and only had 2 close friends. Catherine was moving schools because she was being bullied at her old school. She liked the teachers, her classes, and her friends at her old school, but the bullying was so bad. The girls would call her mean names, trip her, and embarrass her in front of other classmates. They bullied her because she was an easy target. Catherine wore a hearing aid and she was disabled. Catherine's new school was a private Christian school. She had to wear a uniform and pray between classes. Catherine was okay with praying, but she didn't like the uniform. She always liked expressing herself with clothes. Now, she could only wear the clothes she wanted on the weekends. Although there were no bullies, her classmates were hard to get along with. Catherine felt like her personality was so different from theirs. Her classmates were very serious, quiet, and kind of boring. Angie was a fashion model. The modeling industry was a tough world. Although it looks glamorous, it is hard to make it big in the industry. Angie's agent suggested that she get a new haircut to make her stand out. Angie currently had long, blonde hair. She did not have a unique look. Angie didn't want to cut her hair, though. She loved it. Angie and her agent went to a fancy hair salon called Cute Cuts. The hairstylist was world-renowned. Cut 9 inches off and spike up her hair like a boy's hair, the agent said. Angie was nervous. The hairstylist stroked her long hair. "Are you ready to be a star?" the hairstylist asked. Angie slowly nodded her head. She wasn't ready, but it didn't matter. Angie listened to the classical music while her hairstylist cut her hair. She tried to fall asleep so she wouldn't have to think about her hair. After 45 minutes, the hairstylist removed her hair towel. "Ta-da!" she said. Angie started crying. She thought she looked awful. "You'll feel better once you book jobs," the agent said. Although Angie didn't like her haircut, she admitted that it was going to make her stand out. Right now, Eileen is a famous fashion designer. She started from the bottom, though. She was raised by a single mother with 5 other siblings. There was barely enough to eat. In fact, there were a lot of days when she just ate an apple and a slice of bread. Eileen also lived in a bad neighborhood where hearing gunshots was normal. Eileen didn't do well in school either. She had a hard time focusing and often fell asleep while her teachers were talking. It was hard to think about George Washington or the scientific theory when you had personal problems. Because she didn't do well in school and she needed money, Eileen didn't go to college. She immediately worked at a clothing store as a cashier. Eileen would sketch designs during her break time. One lucky day, the owner at the time saw her designs and was impressed. He offered Eileen a position as a designer. Eileen worked for her boss for 5 years before starting her own company called Bottomless. There are now Bottomless stores in over 100 countries. Eileen has been on many talk shows speaking about her rise to success. In the United States, you can pretty much vote for who you want to be president if you are 18 years or older and a U.S. citizen. People don't realize how great this is. In some countries, power is passed on to relatives, and the people don't get any say in who the leader of the country should be. However, a lot of people in the United States, especially young people, do not vote. There are many reasons why people don't vote. Firstly, they don't believe their vote matters. The truth is, everyone's vote matters. Secondly, they don't think that anything will change if they vote. Although it's hard to see big changes right away. The presidential candidate you vote for affects many policies. Thirdly, people are lazy to go out of their houses to vote. This is the worst excuse. People need to realize that voting is a privilege. Imagine if we couldn't vote. We would feel out of the loop. We would feel that our opinion doesn't matter. If you don't vote for a candidate, then you have no right to complain about the president who will be elected. Yvonne is addicted to biting her nails. She doesn't know how it started. She has been biting her nails since she was 4 years old. She bites her nails when she is not doing anything with her hands. She bites her nails when listening to her professor or waiting in line. People around her are grossed out by her habit, but Yvonne can't help it. Her addiction is getting worse. Yvonne now has an infection on the tips of her fingers. Her fingernails are also yellow. When Yvonne noticed all this, she realized that she needed to make a big change. Yvonne decided to paint her nails to stop herself from biting them, since she doesn't want to bite on the nail polish. Yvonne was in class listening to a boring lecture which made her want to bite her nails. She looked at her blue nails and stopped herself. 10 minutes later, she looked at her nails again. She started sweating and tapping her foot. The girl sitting next to her asked if she was okay. Yvonne couldn't take it anymore. She just had to bite her nails again. Bradley was a typical cool guy. He was the captain of the football team, dating the head cheerleader. He was rich, tall, and good-looking. He was also the president of the high school. Bradley had one problem. It was his grade in English. He couldn't write an essay to save his life. He had trouble coming up with ideas. Bradley's final English paper was supposed to be about his role model. He wanted to write about his football coach. Bradley knew he couldn't do well by himself, so he hired the smartest student in class to help him. He was going to pay Melody $10 an hour. Bradley invited Melody to his house. Okay, Bradley, start with an interesting sentence that's going to grab the reader's attention. How about, soccer is called football in most countries, Bradley suggested. But that has nothing to do with your topic, Melody said. Bradley felt bad. Hey, don't feel bad. Coming up with hooks can be challenging. Why don't you use a quote that your coach said? Melody suggested. Bradley thought that was a good idea. His hook was, "Football is an art, not a game." Clara always thought her eyebrows were too bushy. Having good eyebrows was becoming a very popular trend among girls. Clara's friend Rachel offered to take her to a salon to wax her eyebrows. Clara didn't like that idea. She didn't want a stranger to be so close to her face. Rachel offered to give Clara waxing products so she can fix her eyebrows herself. Clara said okay. Clara went over to Rachel's house to get the eyebrow waxing material. She then went to Rachel's bathroom. Clara was nervous. What if she did it wrong? She slowly spread the wax on her eyebrows. A couple minutes later, she pulled the wax off. "Ouch!" Clara yelled. Clara looked in the mirror. Her eyebrows were gone. She had accidentally pulled off too much of it. She screamed. Rachel went in the bathroom to check on her. "I heard screaming. What's wrong?" Rachel asked. Clara turned around and pointed at her face. Rachel tried to hide her laugh. "It's not funny," Clara said. "Well, it kinda is, because you were worried that you had too much hair before, and now you have none," Rachel said. Paul tried hard to please everyone and had a hard time saying no to anything. When people asked him to do exciting things, Paul said yes, so people would think he's a fun guy. He also said yes to exciting things because he thought life was too short not to try new things. When people asked him to do favors for them, Paul said yes because he wanted people to like him. His agreement to everything was a big problem when he was busy with homework, chores, or any other personal commitments. One time, he had a test that was worth 50% of his final grade, and the day before it, he decided to go skydiving with his neighbor. Skydiving took about 5 hours, and Paul couldn't get home until 11 p.m. By then, he was tired and found it hard to focus on studying. Another time, Paul's friend asked if he could turn in her paper for her at 3 p.m. Paul had to be at his soccer game at 3:10 p.m. Any other person would have said no, but not Paul. Paul turned in the paper for his friend, ran to the gym to change, and then arrived at the soccer game 10 minutes late. Kenneth and Leslie raised their kids to have Christmas spirit. They do all the Christmas traditions, everything from decorating the house with lights to putting a star on top of the Christmas tree. The kids even think that Santa Claus is real. This all changed when Kenneth and Leslie's son Thomas saw Kenneth putting a bunch of Christmas presents under the Christmas tree late at night. Thomas gasped. He was upset that his parents lied to him. "Mom, Dad, why didn't Santa come this year? I saw you two putting gifts under the tree," he said. Kenneth and Leslie looked at each other with worries. "Well, son, the truth is, Santa didn't have time to put them under the tree, so he gave them to me and your mom," Kenneth said. Leslie was impressed with her husband's ability to come up with a lie so quickly. "You know, a lot of kids at school say that Santa isn't real," Thomas said. "Well, they're lying, honey. They just want to make you feel bad," Leslie said. "Really? Well, can you prove it by bringing me to Santa Claus?" Thomas asked. "Well, we can bring him to you," Kenneth said. An hour later, Kenneth entered the house in a Santa Claus costume. Linda loved her husband, Tom, but she hated Valentine's Day. She thought it was lame and pointless. She thought it was dumb that couples acted especially nice to each other on Valentine's. She believed that lovers should treat every day like Valentine's Day. Tom had flowers delivered to Linda's workplace on Valentine's Day. When she saw them on her desk, she rolled her eyes. Tom knew she hated Valentine's Day. She also thought that flowers were a waste of money. They died so quickly. She could never understand why anyone would pay over $30 for a bouquet of flowers. When Linda got home after work, she asked Tom why he sent her flowers. "I know you hate Valentine's, but I saw my friend play the piano in front of his wife for Valentine's, so I wanted to do something special," Tom said. Linda smiled. Even though she hated Valentine's, she felt loved by her husband. Ying moved to the U.S. when she was 15 years old. She was born in China and had a Chinese accent when she spoke. She didn't like her accent because it made her sound funny, and people sometimes couldn't understand what she said. Ying also knew that people made fun of her accent. Ying's history teacher made everyone go up in front of the class and recite a part of the Constitution of the United States. Ying didn't want to do it. She asked her teacher if she could record herself and send it to him. The teacher said no, because that would be unfair to everyone else. Ying then said that it was unfair that everyone had an American accent. The teacher told her to take classes to get rid of her Chinese accent. Ying took her history teacher's advice and took a class on getting rid of the foreign accent. The class was filled with people like Ying. The teacher had Ying and other students pronounce things. After a week, Ying didn't see an improvement. She decided to stop going to class and start loving her accent. She shouldn't have to change herself. People should like her the way she is. The career day was the time when parents of students came into the classroom to talk about their jobs. Jane brought her dad, who was a bus driver. Jane's dad did not like his job when he was first starting out. After 5 years, he liked it. He liked it because he got to talk to people. Sometimes, though, no one wanted to talk to him. Those days were bad. Jane's dad talked about what he had to do as a bus driver in front of Jane's classmates. "Anyone interested in becoming a bus driver?" Jane's dad asked. No one raised their hand. The next parent going up was Julia's dad. Julia's dad was a firefighter. He dressed up in his firefighter uniform. He talked about his experiences and the crazy fires he had to put out in the past. The students loved Julia's dad. They asked him a ton of questions, and someone even hugged him. Jane's dad felt bad. He left the classroom before the day ended. Jane's teacher ran out of the room to talk to him. "Mr. Lowell, I just wanted to tell you that I have so much respect for what you do." Jane's dad smiled. Donald is getting out of jail today after 5 years. He was in jail for hurting a convenience store manager. Donald had stolen food from the convenience store, and the manager ran after him. Donald punched the manager and ran away with the food. Shortly after, the police got him. While Donald was in jail, he promised that he would change his life around if he got out of jail. He saw some scary stuff while he was in jail. Jail was a whole other world. It was almost like high school, but worse. There were cliques where the tough guys tried to scare everyone. Donald tried to stay away from trouble. When Donald got out of jail, he smelled the fresh air. It felt great being out. He went to the convenience store he stole from. The manager saw him and grabbed the phone immediately. Donald assured him that he didn't want to hurt him. "I want to apologize for what I did. I stole food because I was homeless. I'm not trying to make excuses for how I hurt you, though." Donald gave the manager an envelope with $1,000 inside. "I know it doesn't make up for everything, but I was saving up this money for 5 years in jail," Donald said. The manager gave him a hug. Hannah was a good girl. She went to school on time. She did well in class. She was nice to everyone. She played soccer. She volunteered at the homeless shelter once a week. Hannah was about to go bad, though. Yesterday, someone robbed her house. She felt sad that bad things could happen to her, even though she never did anything wrong. Hannah decided to take revenge. Through her neighbor, she found out who robbed her. It was someone who lived just 3 streets down. At night, Hannah dressed in black and wore a mask. She was going to take back what the robber took and more. She wanted him to feel what she and her family felt. Hannah unlocked the door with a paperclip and went inside the house. She saw her belongings near the fireplace. She grabbed the belongings and put them inside a big black bag. She also stole some money, although it wasn't a lot. She realized that there wasn't anything worth stealing, so she spray painted the walls. Lillian loves spicy food. She has a high tolerance for it, which means that she can eat a lot of it without suffering. Sometimes she even adds more chili to spicy food. Lillian and her friends decide to try the Fireball wings at a popular chicken wing place in their town. The Fireball wings were supposed to be so spicy that you could still feel the burn after 1 hour of eating a bite. Lillian and her friends had to sign a waiver to eat the wings so that they couldn't sue the business if they had any health problems after eating the wings. Lillian was excited. Finally, the plate of wings came in, and everyone could smell the chili. One of her friends sneezed because the smell was so strong. Lillian took the first bite. It was hot. She started panting and breathing heavily. She drank some water, but it was still hot. Her friends ordered some milk for her. Milk is supposed to be good for dealing with spicy food. Lillian drank 2 glasses of milk, but her mouth was still burning. Her friends decided not to eat the wings, because if Lillian couldn't handle it, then they surely wouldn't. Benjamin and Kyle are best friends. They met when they were 10 years old. They were both in the same swim class. They became the fastest swimmers in their class. They joined the swim team at their high school. Even though they were great swimmers, Benjamin and Kyle had different personalities. Benjamin was book smart. He had straight A's in all his classes, even the advanced ones. Kyle was street smart. He knew how to get what he wanted. Benjamin and Kyle both wanted to be the swim team captain. However, there can only be one. Whoever got the most votes would be the next captain. Kyle was worried because he knew that Benjamin was more popular than him. A lot of the other team members thought Kyle was a bit mean. Kyle had a plan, though. The next day, he gathered up all the swim team members except Benjamin to meet him at the pool. "Hey guys, I know you want to vote for Benjamin, and I think he's a great guy. The thing is, he would be a terrible captain. He always puts school first. He would rather study for a test than practice his breaststrokes. I love swim and would put everything I have into this team." Kyle knew what he did was bad, but he wanted to be captain so badly that he did not care. Benjamin walked out of the locker room after swim practice. One of his team members, Aaron, wanted to talk to him. "Ben, there's something you have to know," Aaron said. "What is it?" Benjamin asked. "Kyle said you would be a terrible captain to the entire swim team," Aaron said. Benjamin went back home depressed. He didn't think that Kyle would betray him. Tomorrow would be the swim captain election. Benjamin didn't have time to worry about Kyle. He had to prepare his speech. The next day, Benjamin and Kyle stood in front of the swim team. Kyle went first. "Hello, fellow team members. I want to be your next swim captain because there is nothing I care more about than swim. I will put 110% into every practice we have and every competition we enter. We're going to be winners if you vote for me." Benjamin was up next. "Hi all. I should be the next captain because I want to make this team stronger. It's important that we all work together and be friends with each other. We need to support each other whether we win or lose. I will make this team a family. By being a family, we will be more motivated to do our best." Benjamin and Kyle had just made their speeches to be swim captain. All right, all those who want Kyle as your captain, raise your hand, the swim coach said. 5 people raised their hands. All those for Benjamin, raise your hand, the swim coach said. 30 people raised their hands. Everyone congratulated Benjamin and chanted his name. Kyle was upset and left school early. Benjamin went to Kyle's house after school. He knocked on Kyle's door. Kyle opened it. "Hey, man, what's up?" Kyle said. "Were you ever going to tell me that you said I'd be a terrible captain to the whole swim team?" Benjamin angrily asked. Kyle did not know that Benjamin found out about the betrayal. "I'm sorry, man. I wanted to be the captain so badly." "I thought we were best friends. How could you do that?" Benjamin asked. Kyle shook his head in shame. "The truth is, I was jealous of you. You're a great swimmer. You're the smartest one in our class, and everyone likes you." "Kyle, you're pretty great too. Girls like you. Your swim technique is amazing, and you know how to get what you want," Benjamin said. "Can you forgive me? I'm really sorry," Kyle said. "Yeah, but let's talk about it over dinner. I'm starving," Benjamin said. Kyle and Benjamin went to a restaurant they had been going to since they were 10 years old. Mary and Natasha both like Kyle. They both want to go to the homecoming dance with him. Mary got to him first. "Hey, Kyle, want to go to the homecoming with me?" "Oh, gosh, I'm actually asking someone else later today," Kyle said. Mary was furious. How could he say no to her? "Who are you asking?" Mary asked. "Natasha," he said. Mary had to do something. She couldn't let Natasha take Kyle away from her. Mary walked over to Benjamin, Kyle's best friend. "Hey, Benjamin, you should ask Natasha to the homecoming dance." "Really? I don't think she likes me," he said. "She told me she likes you," Mary said. "Okay, I will ask her out. Thanks for telling me," Benjamin said. Benjamin went up to Natasha during lunch with roses. "Natasha, will you go to the homecoming dance with me?" Benjamin asked. Natasha didn't want to go with Benjamin, but everyone was staring at them. She didn't want to embarrass him by saying no. "Yes, I'll go with you," she said. Kyle and Benjamin were hanging out after school. "So I'm going to the dance with Natasha," Benjamin excitedly said. "What? I was going to ask her out later today," Kyle said. "What? Well, it's too late. She already said yes to me," Benjamin said. Kyle was sad. He decided to ask Mary to the dance instead. It was better for him to ask someone than no one at all. At the dance, there was a DJ, a disco ball, food, the school mascot, and pretty decorations. Everyone was having a good time, except Benjamin, Kyle, Mary, and Natasha. Benjamin and Natasha barely spoke to each other. Natasha kept thinking about Kyle, and Benjamin thought Natasha was way too quiet. Kyle kept thinking about Natasha, and Mary was mad that Kyle wasn't paying attention to her. "Give me a second. I'm gonna see how Ben is doing," Kyle said to Mary. Kyle walked over to Benjamin. "Hey, where's Natasha?" Kyle asked. "She's in the bathroom," Benjamin said. "None of us are happy right now. Why don't we switch dates?" Kyle suggested. "That would leave me and Mary unhappy," Ben said. Kyle sighed. He knew Ben was right. The homecoming dance was just going to be a bad night. Textbooks are really expensive. It is funny because nobody wants them. Students just have to buy them because teachers want them to. Mr. Tan teaches an economics class, and he usually makes them buy a $200 textbook. Last year, though, one of his students tried to steal a textbook. That student got suspended. The sad thing is, the student stole the textbook because he could not afford it. Mr. Tan decided to change some things around. Instead of making his students buy the textbook, Mr. Tan made copies of the textbook and gave them to the students. This is technically illegal. Another teacher found out about what Mr. Tan was doing and told the principal. The principal gave Mr. Tan a warning. Mr. Tan had to come up with another idea that was legal. Mr. Tan decided to use online articles that were available for everyone to access. The students liked this idea because they did not have to buy a textbook. The principal liked this idea because it was legal. Mr. Tan liked the idea because he felt that the articles taught a lot of interesting information. Mr. Tan won Teacher of the Year award. He was respected for caring about his students' financial situation. In college, everyone has different class enrollment times. Some people have early times, and some people have late times. The more classes you have taken, the earlier your registration time is. That is why seniors have early registration times. All student athletes, students on scholarships, and low-income students have early registration times. A lot of students complain about their registration times. Having a late registration time means not getting the classes you want. Not getting the classes you want means not being able to graduate on time. This is a big problem in public schools. Every semester, there are a ton of students who line up to complain about their registration times. Academic counselors tell the students the same thing every time. We can't do anything about it. Parents complain about it too. The academic counselors tell them the same thing. One of the parents who complained was a lawyer. She tried to sue the school. It did not work. Students also protested that athletes should not have earlier registration times. The academic counselors say, "We don't make up the rules." Stage fright is the nervousness one feels when speaking in front of an audience. It is extremely common. Mr. Todd tries to eliminate stage fright in his speech class. In the class, everyone is required to do 5 speeches in front of the class. The first speech is about the student. The students typically talk about their likes, dislikes, family, friends, hobbies, and future goals. Since it is the first speech, a lot of students are nervous. They want to make a good first impression on everyone. Mr. Todd told them to think of the audience as their friends. The second speech is supposed to persuade the audience to support a particular cause. One student talked about abortion. Another student talked about Donald Trump. For this speech, Mr. Todd advised them to make connections with the audience. People are more likely to support your cause if you make it relatable to them. For the third speech, the student is supposed to try to convince the audience to visit a particular country. By the third speech, the students were more confident. It was easier for them to talk in front of their classmates. The students felt like they were all friends with each other. Even if they made a mistake, it was okay. Darcy was in her 6th year of college. Most people go to college for 4 years and then graduate. Darcy was different. She did not plan well. In her first year, she was so excited to be away from her parents. She went out late every night. She drank too much alcohol. She made friends with the bad crowd. She skipped her classes. She had to retake a lot of classes. In her second year, Darcy started to get her act together. She stopped going out so late. She became friends with people who studied. She went to class and studied. However, Darcy wanted to change her major from chemistry to political science. The chemistry classes she took were useless now. She had to take political science classes she should have taken in her first year. In her third year, Darcy took more classes than the average student. It was very stressful. She was in class from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. She felt like she could not think in any of her classes. She was not getting much sleep. She talked to a guidance counselor who told her that she should drop 2 classes. The counselor also said that it was better to get good grades and stay longer in college than to get bad grades and graduate on time. Darcy dropped 2 classes and had to stay in college for 2 extra years. There are a lot of rules on what students can and cannot wear. Girls can't show bra straps, wear shorts that are too short, wear tank tops, nor can they wear body jewelry. Guys can't show their boxers or wear pants that are too baggy. Both girls and guys cannot wear open-toed shoes, including flip-flops. The students are sad because flip-flops are comfortable and easy to wear. Flip-flops are also great when it's really hot. One sunny August, Sebastian decided to break the rules and wear flip-flops to school. He felt cool that he was breaking the rules. His friend Brett looked at him in horror. "Dude, you're going to get in trouble," Brett said. Sebastian laughed. "They won't even notice," he said. Sebastian was right. Class after class, teachers failed to notice that Sebastian was wearing open-toed shoes. After the last class bell rang, Sebastian and his classmates walked out. When he walked outside, Sebastian tripped over a rock. His toes started to bleed and his foot was bruised. He couldn't even get up. Brett called the nurse over. The situation was too serious for the nurse to handle. The nurse had to call the hospital. Sebastian never wore flip-flops again. Mabel was the most likable girl in school. Teachers loved her because she was a good student who always had something to say. Boys loved her because she was so beautiful. Girls loved her because she was nice and always helped them. Her siblings loved her because she was caring. Mabel just had a good impression on everyone. One day, a robber came to her house, stole all her money, and punched her when she tried to stop him. Mabel was devastated after that incident. She felt upset that someone would hurt her when she was a good person. When she returned to school, it was hard for her to talk to people. She started spacing out in class, sitting alone during lunch, and wearing the same clothes every day. Mabel's friends were worried about her. They decided to go to her house to talk to her parents. Her friends explained how Mabel was acting differently in school. Mabel's parents had no idea. They talked to Mabel and told her that the robbery had nothing to do with her. Robbers just rob houses that they feel are the easiest to break into. Mabel's parents gave her a hug. Howard was never the athletic type. In fact, he was always the fat kid. People made fun of him for his size. Howard wanted to change that. He wanted to be more healthy. He wanted to get into sports. He saw a flyer for soccer tryouts. Howard never played soccer, but he watched it on TV. Howard had 1 week to get ready before tryouts. He watched soccer games on his TV for 2 hours. Howard was the fat kid, but against all odds, he surprisingly made the soccer team. His family celebrated. They were happy that he was being active, and they wanted him to make new friends. Howard was happy too. On his first day of practice, the coach made a short speech. "Congratulations on making it to the team. You have a tradition to keep. Our team is the best high school soccer team in northern Mississippi. Practice is going to be rough, but it's going to be worth it. Practice is 2 hours a day, every day, including Saturday and Sunday." Howard started to sweat. Was he ready for intense exercise every day? The team captain was the next to make a speech. "Coach is right. You guys all have to keep up. Keep up or go home." First, the team did warm-ups, which included stretching, running, bouncing the ball with their knees, and more. Howard was having trouble, especially with running. After the warm-ups, the boys played a game. Howard was already very tired. The captain pulled him aside and said, "I don't know how you made the team. You got lucky." Howard ignored what he said and continued to do the best he could. Howard had recently made the soccer team. However, he has been having trouble with the captain and keeping up with his teammates. Howard wasn't in shape like the rest of the guys. He also couldn't do a lot of the things that the guys did. Howard knew that the only reason he made the team was because he made a goal during tryouts. The goal he made was lucky, though. The coach quickly realized this after the first week of practice. The coach set up a meeting to talk to Howard. "Do you know what this is about?" the coach asked. Howard nodded. "Your performance has not been so good compared to the others. It also seems like you're having a lot of trouble," the coach said. "Yeah, I didn't grow up playing soccer," Howard said. "You're going to have a lot of trouble if you stay on the team. If you still want to play, I think you should take classes and try out again next year." Howard sighed. He knew the coach was right, but he was still sad. Howard cried. The coach put his arm around him. "Everyone has strengths and weaknesses. Soccer is not your strength, but you are probably good at something else. My strength is playing soccer, but my weakness is playing instruments," the coach said. Howard felt a lot better after hearing him say that. Howard knew that he had strengths. He just had to find out what they were. Ricky is homeless. He sleeps under a shady big tree at the park every night. In the morning, he walks around the park and sometimes goes on the playground. He likes going on the swings, closing his eyes and thinking about the past. His past was great. He grew up in a wealthy family. Both of his parents were doctors. Ricky went to a good school, had lots of friends, and was on his way to being a doctor. Everything was perfect. Then his parents got sued by a patient. His parents lost the case and owed the patient millions of dollars. Ricky and his family had to sell their house and move to a much smaller house. Ricky also had to move schools. Ricky's parents had a very hard time adjusting. His dad had a heart attack after 1 year of living in the small house. His mom had a hard time without his dad and died from stress. Ricky had to support himself. He quit school and worked at a grocery store. He eventually quit because he thought he was too good for his job. Ricky decided he would rather be homeless than work at a job he hated. Ricky had gotten used to being homeless. He had been homeless for 5 years, and he is now 23 years old. He talks to people at the park and has good conversations. He gets food from the trash can. He doesn't mind. Ricky is homeless but happy. Margaret was going to meet her boyfriend's parents for the first time. She was worried that they wouldn't like her because she was poor. They probably thought she was with him for his money. She wasn't. She was with him because he was kind and funny. Margaret had to look her best. She put on her nicest dress, heels, and diamond earrings. Margaret's boyfriend, Jimmy, picked her up. "You'll be fine," he said. When she saw Jimmy's parents' house, she gasped. It was huge. There were 2 security guards at the 2 ends of the gate. They typed in the code and the gate opened. When they got to the front door, the servant opened the door for them. Margaret and Jimmy went into the living room to find Jimmy's parents drinking expensive wine. It was the kind of wine that was $100 a bottle. "Mom, Dad, this is Margaret," Jimmy said. Jimmy's mom looked at Margaret from top to bottom and frowned. Jimmy's dad did the same. Margaret was not off to a good start. The four of them sat at a dining table. Nobody said anything for 10 minutes. Margaret broke the silence and said, "This is delicious." "Of course it is. It's probably the most expensive thing you ever ate," Jimmy's mom said. "Mom, that was really mean," Jimmy said. "I'm just saying the truth, son." Margaret and Jimmy left after dinner. Margaret swore she would never see his parents again. For the first time ever, Gabby was going to be home alone. Her parents and little brother were going on a 1-week trip to Hawaii. Gabby didn't want to miss out on school, so she had said she would stay at home. It was going to be great. She could stay up late as she wanted, invite people over, and sing as loud as she wanted to. She invited her friends, William and Agatha, to her house after school. "Wow, it is so cool to have the whole house to yourself. Your parents must really trust you," Angela said. Gabby's parents trusted Gabby because she always told the truth and did the right thing. "You should throw a party," William suggested. Gabby and Agatha gasped. "Did you hear what I just said?" Agatha said. "I heard you. I just think Gabby should do the wrong thing for once and not be boring," William said. Gabby did think about it. People at school did think she was a goody two-shoes, and her parents probably wouldn't find out. "Okay, I'll do it," Gabby exclaimed. Gabby invited the whole 11th grade class to her house on Friday. A lot of people came and the house was packed. It seemed like everyone was having a good time. People really liked the food and the music at the party. Eventually, however, the party got too crazy. People started yelling at each other. Things broke, and neighbors complained. All of a sudden, the door opened. It was Gabby's parents. "Mom, Dad, aren't you supposed to be here tomorrow?" Gabby asked. "We were, but we came here to surprise you with a gift," her dad said. Gabby felt guilty. Ginny was obsessed with donuts. She had her first donut when she was 5 years old. It was from a gas station. Ginny was crying, and her dad was trying to get her to be quiet. He gave her a donut, and Ginny immediately stopped crying. Ginny has tried 20 different donut shops and hundreds of different flavors. Some of her favorite donut flavors included chocolate, banana, and regular glazed. Her friend Rebecca knows how much she likes donuts, so she recommended her a place. It's called Doughnutty. It's known to be the best donut on earth, Rebecca said. "What's so good about it?" Ginny asked. "They're really fresh, and they use a type of sugar that is good for you," Rebecca said. Ginny was going to check the shop out. Doughnutty was an hour away from Ginny's house. Her brother made fun of her for driving so far just to eat donuts. When Ginny and Rebecca got there, the store was closed. The girls felt so frustrated. They decided to get donuts at the gas station nearby. It was not the best, but it was still pretty good. Ms. Robbins was known around the school as the meanest teacher ever. She gave hard tests, made fun of students, and wouldn't let the students have any fun whatsoever. Why was Ms. Robbins so terrible? Well, she never wanted to be a teacher. She grew up wanting to be an actress. She was pretty good at it. She even had her own TV show once. The TV show did not do so well, and it ended after a year. Ms. Robbins struggled to find a job after that. Ms. Robbins only got her job as a teacher because she knew the principal of the school. They were best friends from high school. Miss Robbins taught history. Her students were all afraid of her. One of her students, Cassidy, raised her hand to ask a question. Ms. Robbins, how long should our essay be? Ms. Robbins stared at her coldly and said, I hate repeating myself. Ask your classmate. Ms. Robbins was called into the principal's office. What's up? She asked. There have been some concerns over your behavior, the principal said. I know where this is going, Ms. Robbins said. Do you? Well, it has to change. I know you don't want to be here, but you can't get paid if all your students want you gone, the principal said. Ms. Robbins was more careful since her meeting with the principal. Martin and Kylie have been in a relationship for 4 years. They have already said, I love you, met each other's parents, and talked about marriage. Their friends and family are just waiting for Martin to propose to Kylie. However, they don't know that Martin has been having second thoughts about his relationship with Kylie. Martin asked Kylie to go out to dinner with him. So, this is going to be hard to hear, Martin said. What happened? Did someone die? Kylie asked. Kylie had no idea what was coming next. I want to take a break from us, Martin said. What do you mean? Kylie asked. I still love you. I just need some time to myself. I want to travel by myself, Martin said. For how long? Kylie asked. Maybe a year, Martin said. I'm not going to wait around, so we're over, Kylie said. Martin was sad at first, but as he was traveling across the world, he didn't feel too sad anymore. He first went up to Canada. He really liked the donuts there. He then went to Ireland. He really liked how green it was. He then went to Italy. He really liked the buildings and houses there. Next, he went to Vietnam. He really liked the people there. After 1 year, he came back to the United States. He asked how Kylie was doing. They went out again to catch up. They got back together. It was clear that they still loved each other. Myron was a meat lover, and Nick was a veggie lover. Not only is Nick a veggie lover, but he is a vegetarian. It makes things hard for Myron and Nick's parents to prepare meals for them. The parents liked meat, but when they make something like chicken, they have to prepare something different for Nick. It was extra work. The family was recently invited to a friend's barbecue party. Nick didn't want to go because he knew that everyone would ask why he wasn't eating meat. Honey, just come. There will be mashed potatoes and corn, his mom said. I know, Mom, but I just don't want to explain to everyone why I'm a vegetarian, Nick said. Everyone there wants to see how you're doing, his mom said. You know what, Nick? Why don't we all become vegetarians for this whole month? We can all explain together why we're vegetarians. It will be healthier for us too, his dad said. Nick appreciated his dad's suggestion. That's too hard for me, Myron said. Well, Myron, it would be good if you laid off the meat for a while, Nick said. The boys and their parents went to the barbecue party and didn't eat meat. They felt surprisingly good. Vicky works at 11 Men, a cafe that serves coffee and pastries. She does not really like her job, but it gets the bills paid. One of the rules at the cafe is not to bring food from other restaurants into the cafe. Vicky greeted one of the customers. She noticed that the customer had something from Panda Express. However, Vicky didn't say anything because she didn't think it was a big deal. Vicky's boss, Angelica, called her over. "Vicky, you need to tell her about our rule about food from other places," she said. Vicky nodded and went over to the customer. "Hi, I'm sorry, but you cannot have food from other restaurants here," Vicky said. "But it's not like I'm not ordering from you guys. I just want something to drink with my meal," the customer said. "You can come in after you finish your food. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules," Vicky said. The customer was furious. He got up and knocked the table and chairs down. "This is a terrible cafe," he said. All the other customers and employees stared at him. The angry customer left and wrote an angry review on the cafe. The owners of 11 Men decided to change the rule so that people could bring in food from other places if they still buy something from them. It is 100 degrees Fahrenheit in Los Angeles, California today. Toby had made plans to go hiking today. His mom told him not to go because it was too hot. Toby still wanted to go. Toby and his friends drove up to the hiking trail. When they got out of the car, they felt the hotness immediately. "Toby, I'm starting to sweat already," his friend said. "You'll be fine. Just drink water," Toby said. As they started walking, they noticed that the plants were all brown. They all died. There were not a lot of people hiking either. Toby's friends started to put sunscreen on. "Want some?" he asked. Toby said, "I don't get burned." "Well, suit yourself," his friend said. As they continued walking, the trail was getting steeper and steeper. "Hey, Brian, remember that one time your mom hiked with us?" Toby asked. It was completely silent. Toby turned around. Brian was on the ground. He had fainted. Toby called 911. When they came, they told Toby that Brian fainted from the heat. "You shouldn't be out on a day like this," the emergency response team said. Toby rode with Brian to the hospital. Toby even sat beside Brian while he was unconscious. An hour later, Brian was up. Toby hugged him. "You're totally red," Brian said. Toby looked in the mirror and saw that his face was sunburned. Kathy did the same thing every day, and she didn't mind too much. She wakes up at 6 a.m. every morning, eats cereal, goes to school, and then goes home. She has a few friends, but she doesn't hang out with them outside of school. Kathy usually just reads books and watches TV shows when she has free time. Kathy was walking to school as she usually does. All of a sudden, a car hit her. Kathy was knocked out with blood everywhere. She went to the hospital, and her family and friends visited her. The doctor told them that Kathy was miraculously alive, even though she was hurt pretty badly. She was perfectly fine. Kathy's parents and friends kissed Kathy. Kathy felt very lucky. She decided that she would live like every day was her last. Every day she tried to do something meaningful, and every day she wrote in a diary. The day after getting discharged from the hospital, Kathy tried a new ice cream flavor. She usually gets vanilla, but she tried chocolate fudge and loved it. She also went skydiving. At school, Kathy started joining more clubs. In a weird way, she was glad she got hit by a car. Drake, Minnie, and Maribel have been best friends since they were 4 years old. They were inseparable. They had a lot of inside jokes, a secret meeting place, and friendship bracelets. They were very exclusive, too. They didn't want to include other people in their group. It would be too hard. Maribel went to a Thai restaurant with her family. She saw Drake and Minnie having dinner together. Why would they have dinner without her? It looked like they liked each other more than friends. Minnie was laughing and flipping her hair. Drake touched Minnie's hand. Maribel was upset. If they started dating, she would be out of the group. At school, Maribel confronted Drake and Minnie about it. "So, when were you going to tell me you two are dating?" Maribel said. Drake and Minnie nervously looked at each other. "We're not dating. We never would," Drake said. "I saw you two at the restaurant last night," Maribel said. "Well, we didn't want to tell you, but we were planning a surprise party for you. That's why we didn't invite you to eat with us," Minnie said. Maribel felt bad that she ruined the surprise. Laura always had really long hair. It went all the way down her back. It was difficult to maintain. It took her 20 minutes to wash her hair. It was also hard for her to exercise since her hair was always flying around everywhere. Laura decided to cut her hair all the way to her ears. She wanted very short hair. She also wanted to donate her hair to cancer patients. Laura always felt strongly about cancer. Her mom died from breast cancer. The hairstylist asked Laura if she was sure that she wanted to cut her hair. Laura nodded. When the hairstylist was finished, Laura looked down to the floor. There was so much hair. Laura couldn't wait to go to school and show off her new look. When Laura met up with her friends, they looked shocked. "What do you think?" she asked. Her friends were silent. "It looks good," one of them said. He was lying. During lunchtime, Laura overheard one of the mean girls say that no guy would ever want to date her because of her manly haircut. Laura was hurt, but she didn't care because she knew that she cut her hair for a good cause. Zoe hated her boss, Justin, who thought he was better than everyone just because he went to Harvard. He proudly hung up his diploma in his office. Zoe knew that she was smart and capable, but she could never rise up with Justin as her boss. She knew she had to work somewhere else. Zoe submitted her letter of resignation. She went into Justin's office to talk. There were pictures of himself all over the walls. There was a picture of him modeling a suit, a picture of him meeting the mayor, and more. Zoe laughed. "Something funny?" Justin asked. Zoe shook her head. "Anyways, I was wondering why you decided to quit. You have worked here for 6 years and have been doing well," Justin said. "I just feel that it's time to move on to bigger things," Zoe said. "Oh, "So this company is not good enough for you?" Justin asked. "To be honest, I just don't like the way you run this company," Zoe said. Justin turned red with anger. He hit his desk and started tearing down all the pictures on the walls. He left Zoe in his office and slammed the door on his way out. Zoe just laughed. Eduardo went to a restaurant. It was a hole in the wall, meaning it wasn't a nice place. The restaurant was known for having delicious, authentic Japanese food. All the employees there were related to each other. Sometimes the service was slow, but that's because all the food is made fresh. The cooks make the food only when the customer orders it. Eduardo sat down. The table was dirty, but Eduardo didn't mind. The server asked him what he wanted to order. Eduardo ordered a salmon roll. It came out in 15 minutes. Eduardo took his first bite. It was delicious. When the check came out, Eduardo put his credit card down. The server told him the place was cash only. Eduardo asked if he could go to the nearest bank. The server said that he couldn't trust him. Eduardo swore he would come back. The server still didn't let him leave. Eduardo first called his sister to help him. His sister was at work, so she couldn't come until nighttime. Eduardo called his best friend Mason. Mason was in the area, so he said okay. Mason came down and paid for Eduardo's meal. Bethany decided that she would spend all the summer earning money as a tutor. She put up flyers around elementary schools in her neighborhood. She was offering lessons in Spanish, French, and Italian. Bethany grew up traveling the world, so she knew how to speak a lot of languages. She would charge her customers $25 per hour. Someone called Bethany. It was a girl asking for lessons in Italian. Bethany drove down to the girl's house on Saturday. The student lived in a huge mansion. Bethany went inside the house and introduced herself. "I'm Megan," the girl said. Bethany first started teaching her the basics, like how to introduce yourself and say thank you. Megan had a hard time pronouncing the words. Bethany repeated them until she could say them correctly. Megan started to get upset and blamed Bethany for teaching her incorrectly. Bethany was insulted. She had been speaking and writing in Italian since she was 4 years old. "Megan, why don't you take a short break and come back to this?" Bethany suggested. Hopefully that would calm her down. "Why don't you take a long break and get out of here?" Megan said. Bethany left her house. She didn't need to take insults from a teenager. Kimberly was very selfish. She only cared about herself and never did any favors for anyone. A classmate of hers asked for her chemistry notes, and she said no. The teacher asked her to read a section of the textbook out loud, and she said no. The principal asked her to pick up a piece of trash on the floor, and she said no. The principal called Kimberly into his office. He asked why she was so disobedient. Kimberly said that she didn't feel the need to help others when no one has ever helped her. "What do you mean no one helped you?" the principal asked. Kimberly explained how she never met her mom and dad. Her dad passed away before she was born, and her mom died while giving birth. Kimberly was in foster care, and her foster parents were not the nicest people. They provided food and a home for her, but that was it. The principal felt sorry for her. Kimberly asked him not to feel sorry for her because she liked that she was independent. Chris owed Penny $100 since last year. Chris used the $100 to buy printer ink. He was in a tough financial situation, but really needed printer ink to write his 20-page paper. Penny wanted him to pay her back immediately, but it never happened. He always had some excuses. He would say that he had the money, but he forgot it. He would say that his boss hadn't given him his paycheck yet for a long time. Penny forgot about the money Chris owed her. Penny remembered when she and Chris went to a restaurant together. Seeing him take out his wallet made her remember. "Hey, do you have $100? You still owe me," Penny said. "I thought I paid you back already," Chris said. Penny laughed. "Can I give it to you tomorrow?" Chris said. Penny knew that if she said yes, she would never get it. Penny said no and made him go all the way to the bank to get $100. Chris went to the bank and asked to take out $100. Something was wrong with his account, though. The banker told him that there was nothing in his account. Someone had pretended to be him and took all his money. Penny was never going to get her $100 back. Apartment 103 had a dish problem. The sink was completely full of dirty dishes from 2 weeks ago. Nobody in the apartment wanted to wash their dishes. Also, no one remembered what dishes were theirs. It was getting out of control. There were flies flying around the dishes, and there was even some mold growing on the dishes. Everyone in the apartment knew that it was a problem, but no one wanted to do anything about it. Diane called all the girls in the apartment into the living room. "Guys, we need to do something about the dishes," Diane said. "I don't have time to do any of the dishes," Clary said. "We all don't have time," Diane angrily said. "Why don't we just split up the dishes in 4? That way it's all fair," Ella suggested. "But that's not fair because some of us don't use as many dishes as others," Katie said. There was a knock on the apartment door. Clary opened it. It was their neighbor, Eli. "I couldn't help but overhear your argument. I was thinking maybe I could wash all your dishes for $40, he said. The girls would have to pay $10 each. They decided it was worth it. If Eli washed them, then none of them would have to deal with it. Greg always felt strongly about the homeless population. He believed that even if a person was homeless, he or she deserved to be treated fairly. There must have been something tragic in their lives that led them to that path. He tried to help them in any way he could. For Thanksgiving, Greg decided to go around his neighborhood giving out free cooked turkeys. The homeless people were thankful to Greg. They felt bad that they couldn't return the favor. Greg told them not to worry about it. Greg also encouraged the homeless people to talk to each other so they wouldn't feel so lonely. Greg saw that 2 police officers were approaching him. He wondered what they wanted from him. The police officers told Greg that he couldn't give out free food without a license because it was a health concern. Greg thought that was ridiculous since it was clear that the turkey was fine. The police officers told Greg that if he gave out food again, he would be thrown in jail. Greg didn't realize that doing something good could actually be bad. Carter was known among his friend group to be the competitive one. He saw everything as a competition, from having the nicest car to finishing math homework the fastest. It was a good thing and a bad thing. It was good because he accomplished a lot. He always tried his hardest and aimed to be the best. It was bad because it made him stressed. Carter had just taken a difficult English test. A few days later, he got his grade back. He received a C. He was in shock. He had never gotten less than an A before. He asked his friends what they got on their tests. They didn't want to show him because they thought he wanted to show off. "Carter, you make us feel bad when you ask what we got," said one of his friends. Carter did not want to admit that he got a low grade. After class ended, Carter went up to the teacher. He asked Ms. Green what the average grade in the class was. Ms. Green said the average grade was B. Carter was extremely upset. For the first time, his grade was below average. Ms. Green told him not to worry and that even the smartest people would face setbacks. The 4th of July was a big deal to the Griffins. Every year, they would have a huge celebration at their house with their friends and family. First, everyone would watch a movie. Then they would eat hot dogs for lunch. Afterwards, they would play games. Some of the games they played together included tug of war, flag football, and trust exercises. After playing games, they ate dinner. Dinner was usually barbecue ribs, corn, and green beans. During dinner, the Griffins would talk about life updates and current events. The big news this year was that Lila Griffin was engaged to the CEO of a world-famous company. Lila Griffin was going to be rich. She was going to move to Beverly Hills. Her uncle asked if she was going to quit her job. Lila said she would not because she would get bored staying at home. After dinner, the Griffins would watch the fireworks. They had a good view of the fireworks. This year, they decided to make their own fireworks too. The fireworks came in lots of different colors, like blue, green, and purple. The fireworks weren't as big as the ones at the park, but they were still nice. It was summertime. Everyone was going to the beach because it was too hot in the city. Ellen and Catherine wanted to go to the beach, but their friend Macy did not want to go to the beach. It wasn't that she didn't like the breeze or the sand. In fact, she loved the beach. She just did not like that she would have to wear a bathing suit. She felt uncomfortable showing a lot of skin because she was a little bit overweight. Ellen and Catherine reassured her that she looked fine. "Why don't you just wear a one-piece swimsuit?" Ellen said. "Because it still sticks to my skin and makes my tummy bulge," Macy said. Ellen and Catherine felt bad that Macy felt insecure about her body. They told Macy that a lot of people at the beach were not in the best shape, and nobody would even pay attention to her. Ellen and Catherine made a list of fun things to do at the beach and gave it to Macy to try to convince her to go. "You don't even have to wear a bathing suit if you don't want to. You can just walk around the beach," Catherine said. Macy decided that her friends were right and drove herself and her friends to the beach. Miles loved playing sports. He grew up playing basketball and tennis. He even wanted to play both sports in college and eventually become a professional. It was also really important for him to win, too. In physical education class, the teacher wanted Miles and another student, Antonio, to each pick 4 other guys to play a round of basketball. Roland was in the same physical education class. Miles knew that Roland wanted him to pick him first to avoid embarrassment. Every time students picked teams, Roland was the last. He was on the chubbier side, clumsy, and got tired easily. Miles felt bad, but he also did not want Roland on his team. There were 2 people left, Roland and Tom. Both of them were not athletic, but Tom was a little better because he was taller. Miles felt conflicted. He knew that if he did not pick Roland, he would be really sad. What was more important, winning or friendship? Miles decided that winning was more important and picked Tom. Roland was so shocked that he ran away to the bathroom to cry. All the guys laughed at him. Miles followed him into the bathroom to talk to him. Roland told him to get out. Miles continued to play basketball and ended up winning. It wasn't worth Roland's tears, though. Roland and Miles have been best friends since 9th grade. They bonded over their common interest in video games. They would go to each other's house and play video games after they finished their homework. They did everything together, from eating breakfast to sleeping over at each other's place. Right now, however, they were not speaking to each other. Miles did not pick Roland to be on his basketball team, and Roland was upset. It has been 2 weeks already. Miles has been trying to make it up to him almost every day. He made him breakfast in the morning, offered to drive him to school, and offered to carry his textbooks. Roland just kept pushing him away. Miles didn't know what he could do. Miles directly asked him one day, and Roland said, "Nothing you do can make up for what you did." Miles was sad, and he gave up. Now, Roland and Miles are about to graduate from high school. It has been a year since they talked. On the last day of school, Roland goes up to Miles. "Hey, I really miss you, to be honest. Want to play video games after the graduation ceremony?" Roland asks. Miles smiles and says yes. Sometimes you can't fix your mistakes right away. Friendship takes time to fix. Janet has a shopping addiction. She loves buying clothes, school supplies, and electronics. If she is not shopping in stores, she is shopping online. She considers shopping as her hobby. Janet often shops when she is sad because she feels like shopping gives her power. Because she shops so much, her house was getting cluttered. Her mom and dad restricted her access to money by closing her debit and credit card accounts. They also stopped giving her an allowance. This did not stop Janet from shopping. In fact, things got even worse. Janet started shoplifting. She was really good at it, too. For clothes, she would just go into the fitting room and put them in her bag. Fitting rooms did not have surveillance cameras, so that was why she could do that. School supplies were even easier to steal. Janet just looked around her and put the pens in her pocket. Electronics were difficult to steal, so she never tried. Janet saw a necklace she liked. As usual, she went to the fitting room and placed it in her bag. When she exited the store, the alarm went off. Janet was shocked, as that had never happened to her. An employee checked her bag and pulled out the necklace from her bag. It turned out that there was a security tag. Harold loved to draw. His love for drawing started when he was 5 years old. He went to a museum when he was 5 years old and was fascinated by all the drawings. His mom told him that maybe someday his art would be up on the walls. Since then, he had drawn something every day. However, there was one big problem. Harold was not good at drawing. He wasn't terrible, but he was definitely average. Harold is now 10 years old, and for 5 years his parents and friends have been telling him how great he is. Harold believed them. At school, he saw a flyer for a drawing competition among 5th graders. The theme was environmental awareness. The first place winner would get $100. Harold was super excited when he saw the flyer. It was a chance for him to show off his skills. Harold told his parents about the competition. His mom and dad nervously looked at each other. They didn't want him to find out that he was actually not a good artist. They told Harold what they really thought of his artwork. "So, you don't think I'm good?" he asked. They shook their heads. Harold was so upset that he tore up his art. He locked himself in his room. At night, his parents went to his room to give him his dinner. "Son, we really feel bad. We think it's great that you want to keep drawing, so your mother and I decided to sign you up for art lessons," Harold's dad said. Harold ran up to his parents and gave them a hug. Jacob had to write a 10-page paper on Abraham Lincoln by tomorrow. He hadn't even started yet. He always procrastinated, but he always got good grades, too. Jacob poured himself a cup of coffee and drank the whole thing. He opened up his laptop. Then he opened up a blank document. Next, he opened up the internet browser. He had to look up information on Abraham Lincoln. When he clicked the enter button to look up information, it said that there was an internet connection problem. He checked his router. It looked fine. He double-checked if he typed Abraham Lincoln incorrectly. He tried turning his Wi-Fi on and off. It still didn't work. Jacob started to sweat. He knew his teacher wouldn't give him a deadline extension. Jacob called customer service and explained his problem. The person on the other line gave him suggestions, but nothing worked. Jacob talked to the person for about an hour and then gave up. He was upset that he wasted an hour. It was already 9 p.m., and he had to turn in his paper at 8 a.m. Jacob had to turn this around. He went to the library, picked out 10 books on Lincoln, and used the library computer. He finished writing at 2 a.m. He ended up getting an A on the paper. Beatrice rode her bike everywhere. Most of her classmates drove around the neighborhood. Beatrice's family couldn't afford to get her a car, so she decided to take her driving test later. She doesn't mind too much. Biking was fun, and it was good exercise. On her way home from school, Beatrice stopped by the supermarket. She forgot her bike lock. She thought about what to do and decided to just leave the bike outside. No one was going to steal her bike, she thought. She went inside to buy milk. When she exited the store, her bike was gone. She was going crazy. She looked all around the market just to see if the thief was still nearby. Hours went by, and she still couldn't find it. Beatrice walked back home with a gallon of milk in her hand. She looked up, and her bike was in front of her house. She was surprised. How did it end up at home? She asked her family how it got there. It turned out that her brother took it as a prank. Arya was always the pretty girl at school. She had voluminous blonde hair and curly hair. She was tall and thin. Because she was pretty, her classmates assumed she was dumb. Arya was not the smartest girl, but she wasn't the dumbest either. She wanted to prove people wrong by enrolling in advanced placement English literature. On the first day of class, people were shocked to see her there. The teacher even said that she was in the wrong class. Arya had to show the teacher her class schedule. The teacher assigned the students a passage to read and analyze. The teacher put them in groups of 4. Arya's group just ignored Arya and analyzed the passage. Arya tried to talk, but they kept ignoring her and cutting her off. Being sick of the poor treatment, Arya finally yelled, "I'm trying to talk here." "Nobody wants to listen to you. What you have to say is probably dumb anyways," one of her group members said. At the end of the class, Arya told the teacher she was dropping. Ms. Sanchez said, "Don't drop, because then you're proving them right. Show them you're capable of using your brain. Share your thoughts out loud in class, and work on getting A's on your essays." Ms. Sanchez was right. She would never get rid of her dumb reputation if she dropped the class. Steve was a counselor at Camp Lafton. His job was to take care of kids at night, teach them how to swim, and make sure they weren't getting into trouble. At night, the kids kept talking. They were supposed to be quiet an hour ago. Steve had a hard time stopping them from talking. He was getting tired of telling them to be quiet. Steve had an idea. "Hey, do you guys want to hear a scary story about this cabin?" he asked. They got excited and started jumping up and down. "Okay, I will tell it. You have to be quiet so you can hear me, though," Steve said. The kids nodded. The story was an old camp legend. It was about the twins who lived in the same cabin as they did. One of the twins mysteriously fainted, while the other one fell through the hole of the floor and was never to be seen again. The twin who fainted was in a coma. When Steve finished the story, the kids were scared. They couldn't sleep, and some of the kids even cried. The kids were definitely quiet, though. He didn't think they would get that scared. Teresa was 25 years old and trying to get a record deal. She wanted to sing pop songs and have her name known all over the world. She had a great vocal range. In fact, she can even sing opera. Making it in the music industry was tough. It took a lot of good luck and connections to get a record deal. One time, Teresa came close to signing a deal, but it fell through when her manager passed away. Teresa saw an advertisement for a singing competition on TV. It was called The Next Superstar. The show was going to be on a major network, so millions would be watching. Teresa first had to sing in front of the 3 judges in Los Angeles. She bought a plane ticket immediately. She always wanted to go to Los Angeles since there wasn't really anything to do in Maine. Teresa arrived in Los Angeles and met the 3 judges. They sat at a long rectangular table. The judge on the left end of the table was a famous rock singer of a band. The judge in the middle was the CEO of Harness Music Group. The judge on the right end of the table was a vocal coach to many famous singers. Teresa was a little nervous. Teresa just arrived in Los Angeles to audition for The Next Superstar. This was her last chance to make it big. One of the judges asked where she was from and what her life had been like. Teresa said she was from Maine. She then said that she had been singing since she was 5 years old and had been struggling to pay the bills. Teresa then sang an original song. The judges were impressed that she wrote a song. They liked how high her voice could go, and they allowed her into the next round. Since Teresa made it to the next round, she got to stay at a hotel for free and eat delicious food. Teresa met other singers, and they were all really good. They picked 100 out of 100,000 contestants. She was competing with the best. Teresa sang a Mariah Carey song for the second round. The judges said she was good, but it wasn't great. They recommended that she sing an opera song since her voice could go really high. Teresa sang an Italian opera song, and the crowd went wild. Since then, Teresa decided to change her singing style. Singing opera made her stand out. Owen and Donna had been dating for about 3 months. Everything was going well until Donna saw Owen hugging her best friend, Leanne. Owen and Leanne barely knew each other, so why were they hugging? After school, Owen and Donna met at their usual place. Owen tried to kiss her, but Donna turned away. "What's wrong?" he asked. She told him that she saw him hugging Leanne. She was crying. She got a really bad grade on her biology test, so I was just trying to be nice, Owen said. "Yeah, but you didn't have to hug her," Donna said. Owen couldn't believe that Donna was that jealous. "It's really not a big deal," Owen said. "It's a big deal to me. Other people were even telling me that it looked like you guys were a couple," Donna said. Owen rolled his eyes. "So what would you have done if you were me?" Owen asked. "I would have just talked to her and give her a pat on the back," Donna said. "Okay, now I know what to do next time. Can we just make up?" Owen asked. Donna nodded her head. She was tired of arguing. The two of them went to get lunch and do homework together. They were talking about the rides, fireworks, and scenery there. Sunny felt so left out of the conversation. Her parents never took her because it was too expensive. One time, her friend invited her to go, but Sunny did not want to spend so much money at one time. Now, Sunny was 18 and had a job as a cashier. She wasn't making a lot, but she saved just over $800 in her bank account. Sunny invited her closest friends to go to Disneyland with her. They went on a Thursday, so the lines were shorter. Sunny immediately fell in love with Disneyland. It was a dream that came true. It was everything her friends said it would be. Sunny went on almost all the rides and took pictures with all the Disney mascots. At the end of the day, She and her friends watched the fireworks. Stella was practically blind without her glasses. Her family was not blessed when it came to vision. Everyone in her family wore glasses, contact lenses, or had their vision corrected. Stella had to wear thick glasses because her prescription was 20/100. This means that she sees at 20 feet what a normal person sees at 100. Stella felt like people who had 20/20 vision didn't understand how lucky they were. A common problem Stella had was not knowing where her glasses were. There was a time when she knocked her glasses off the desk and spent an hour looking for them. Another problem was that glasses just made her look more nerdy. Stella slept over at her friend's house and had to drive home the next morning. When she opened her car door, she realized that she wasn't wearing her glasses. It must have slipped her mind. Stella knocked on her friend's door. There was no one inside. Her friend had just left. Stella couldn't drive back home. She would definitely get in a car accident. Stella waited outside her friend's doorstep. Eventually, she fell asleep. When her friend came back, Stella was too tired to drive, so she just stayed at her friend's house again. Ralph is a waiter at a taco restaurant. He likes his job because the customers are really friendly. His co-workers are funny. The pay is pretty good. He does not want to work at the taco restaurant for the rest of his life, though. He wants to use his money to start his own company. He wants to create a phone app that allows people to talk to friends internationally. Ralph has all the plans for his app, but he just needs the money. If the app goes big, he could make millions. The people who came up with apps like Snapchat and GroupMe are extremely successful. Apps are a modern invention. It's pretty amazing what one good idea can do. Ralph noticed a customer come in and serves him. Ralph compliments the man's watch. "Thank you. The truth is, I hate wearing it, but I need it because I have such a hectic schedule," he says. Ralph asks what he does for a living. The man explains that he buys apps from young entrepreneurs. Ralph jumps up and down with excitement. He tells the man about his app. He likes Ralph's idea and sets up a business conference meeting with him. Justin was a stay-at-home dad. That means he takes care of the kids and deals with housework. His wife is the one who goes out and works. A couple years ago, Justin worked as a teacher. He loved his job. Then, his wife Terry got pregnant. At first, the couple both wanted to work and get a babysitter. Eventually, Justin thought it would be best if he stayed at home and took care of their kid. He wasn't getting that much money as a teacher. Also, he wanted to have control over how his kid was going to be raised. Justin liked being a stay-at-home dad. He loved seeing his kid learn things from him. He wanted to make sure his kid grew up right. Justin made sure to read to his son, take him to open areas, and give him healthy food. The biggest problem with being a stay-at-home dad was the comments he got from his guy friends. They made fun of him for doing housework. At first, the comments bothered him, but they're not a big deal anymore. Justin does miss teaching, though. He is waiting for the day he can teach at school again. He is planning to go back to the job after his kid turns 13 or so. He thinks that is a good time for his son to do his own thing. Janet entered a sweepstakes where she could win a free trip to Hawaii. She read about it from the back of a cereal box. She always wanted to go to Hawaii, so she was excited when she saw the ad. She realized that a lot of people were going to enter the sweepstakes, but something in her felt confident she would win. She was so confident that she started looking up places to go in Hawaii. The winner of the sweepstakes was going to be announced on the Hario Cereal website. Janet went on the website and saw her name on the home page. She won! Janet was so excited that she played a Hawaiian song and danced to it. She read the details on the website and found out that she could invite one person to the trip. Janet didn't know who to invite. She wanted to invite someone she could spend hours with. She wanted to invite someone who would be willing to do adventurous activities. She wanted to invite someone who would appreciate Hawaii. Janet thought about it and decided to take her mom. Diego did not like his name. It was a Spanish name, but Diego didn't even speak Spanish. People always assumed he did, though. In fact, Diego wasn't even Hispanic. Diego also didn't like it because it didn't sound cool. Diego wanted to change his name to something like Brandon or Brock. Diego told his parents that he wanted to change his name. His parents were furious. "This is the name we gave you. By changing it, you're going against our wishes," his mom said. His dad said, "Why don't you just tell people to call you something else? Don't legally change it, though." Diego felt that if he did that, people would just ignore him and continue calling him Diego. Diego tried what his parents suggested. At school, he told his friends and teachers to call him Brock. His friends laughed at him and asked him why. His teachers were okay with it, but they kept calling him Diego accidentally. Since Diego was already 13, it was hard for people who had known him for a long time to call him by any other name.